There are many ways in which international football differs from the club game. One of those ways is that countries cannot go out and buy or sell players, although, admittedly, Qatar did give it a bloody good go. That means that the value of a player is wholly irrelevant in international football, and it also means that, unlike in the club game, bigger and richer countries can't go and bully smaller and poorer ones out of their best players. China and the United States can do many things as countries, but they cannot buy Robert Lewandowski from Poland, and no matter how many goals he scores, Erling Haaland will never represent anyone other than Norway. So which teams have the most valuable and least valuable squads at the 2022 World Cup is, in effect, completely meaningless. Should we just stop here? No, it's alright. But it's also quite interesting, and I suppose it tells us something about how supposed market valuations correlate to performance and our expectations. Also, I made this exact same video 4.5 years ago for the 2018 World Cup in Russia, so it will be interesting to see how this 7 compares to that 7, how the market value of the most valuable players have shifted, and so on and so forth. Without further ado then, let's get straight into it. Here are the 7 most valuable squads at the 2022 FIFA World Cup. 7th, Argentina, £560 million. Sneaking in ahead of the Netherlands and Belgium, who have the 8th and 9th most valuable squads at this World Cup, is Argentina, whose 26-man squad is worth an estimated £560 million, or around £21.5 million per player if you were to average it out. I should point out, I am using pounds here since I am UK based, but there isn't a huge gulf between the pound and the dollar or the euro these days, so £560 million, for example, works out as €644 million, or $665 million at the time of this recording. I thought that seemed to be a little bit low for a very talented Argentina side, who are the second favourites to win this World Cup, or at least they were pre-tournament, but then you consider that Argentina's star man Lionel Messi is 35 years old, and Angel Di Maria is 34, and that has obvious knock-on effects in terms of their valuations. Messi is still considered to be Argentina's third most valuable player, at 35, worth an estimated €50 million, with only Tottenham centre-back Cristian Romero and Inter Milan's Lautaro Martinez estimated to be worth more than him. The least valuable players in the Argentina squad are Alejandro Gomez, Franco Armani, and Nicolas Otamendi, all valued at €4 million or less, which does make some sense given that Gomez and Otamendi are 34 years old and Armani is 36. That does still make Franco Armani younger than the luxury Italian fashion brand by the same name, by the way. Armani was founded by Giorgio Armani in 1975, 47 years ago, or 11 years before Franco was born. I know you were all wondering. 6th, Spain, £762 million. Emphasising the fact that my ball knowledge is in the gutter, I also would have thought that Spain's squad would be more valuable than it is, and that it would at least feature in the top 4 given that it is one of the youngest squads at the tournament, and the youngest by some distance among the favourites. In my defence, the gap between Spain in 6th and Argentina in 7th is almost as great as the gap between Spain in 6th and the national team that is in 2nd, so there is very little to split our next few inclusions. And I do also think that some of Spain's players might be a teeny-weeny bit undervalued by Transfermarkt, where all of this data is taken from. Ansu Fati, for instance, whilst he hasn't been a regular at Barcelona this season or for Spain at the World Cup, is one of the best young talents on the planet and is worth far more than €50 million in my eyes. Similarly, I fail to see how Ferran Torres, valued at €35 million, can already be worth almost half what Barcelona paid for him, and I doubt very much that Athletic Club would accept a bid of just €25 million for 20-year-old wideman Nico Williams at this moment in time. Nonetheless, without overly scrutinising the validity of the valuations upon which the premise of this entire video is based, it is clear that the Spain squad is among the most valuable at this World Cup. Gavi, Pedri and Rodri are the three most valuable players in Luis Enrique's side, all valued at north of 80 million euros. Meanwhile, Barcelona duo Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets come in at just 5 million euros each. Spain have fallen 4 places since the 2018 World Cup, where they had the second most valuable squad, yet they are much more fancied going into this tournament than the last. Meanwhile, Argentina's position, I should have said, remains totally unchanged. 7th in 2018 and 7th again in 2022. 5th, Germany, £769 million. Virtually neck and neck with Spain, the average player valuation in the Germany squad is £29.5 million compared to £29.3 million within the Spain squad. Again though, I think that might slightly underestimate the true value of some of the players at Hansi Flick's disposal. Jamal Musiala is unsurprisingly Germany's most lucrative asset, valued at 100 million euros, followed by Joshua Kimmich at 80 million euros, and both Leroy Sané and Kai Havertz, who are valued at 70 million euros apiece. Youssoufa Moukoko, though, Borussia Dortmund's Cameroon-born wonder kid, who just turned 18 years old, is valued at just 30 million euros, which seems to be a little bit low to me. And the 18 million euro valuation for Southampton's Armel Bella-Kotchap, who is one of the best young centre-backs in world football as far as I'm concerned, aged only 20, teeters on the absurd. In truth, I would expect Southampton to want closer to 10 times that fee, given the fee that they receive for Virgil van Dijk, and market fluctuations since then, when they eventually come to selling him. There aren't that many really cheap assets in the Germany squad, with Werder Bremen striker Niklas Füllkrug taking the wooden spoon, valued at 5 million euros. Germany have fallen 1 place since 2018, when they had a squad value of £797 million, which earned them a spot in 4th. But ultimately, their performance at this World Cup has been exactly the same, out in the group stage. 4th, Portugal, £814 million. Speaking of spots in 4th for national team squads, worth around £800 million, last time it was Germany, but this time it's Portugal, who didn't even feature among the 7 most valuable squads in Russia 4 years ago, would you believe it? Back then, Portugal's squad was valued at just 465 million euros, ranking 8th among all 32 teams at that tournament, a long way behind Argentina in 7th, and not that far ahead of Uruguay in 9th. Now Portugal are blessed with a real plethora of young talent though. 7 of their players, namely João Felix, Nuno Mendes, João Cancelo, Ruben Dias, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva and Rafael Leão, are all valued at in excess of 50 million euros, with Leão taking the most valuable crown at 85 million euros. Dragging down Portugal's average is 39-year-old Porto centre-back Pepe for, what I would imagine, are fairly obvious reasons, and 34-year-old Roma shot-stopper Rui Patricio. Cristiano Ronaldo, just in case you were wondering, is valued at 20 million euros, down from 100 million euros 4 years ago, though even that seems a little bit generous, seeing as though he has been sacked by Manchester United and is therefore available on a free. 3rd, France, £866 million. The most valuable squad at the 2018 World Cup in Russia falls to 3rd in the rankings in Qatar, despite having the most valuable player at the World Cup and the 2nd most valuable in world football in the form of Kylian Mbappé, who is estimated to be worth 160 million euros. The France squad was estimated to be worth 1.08 billion euros in 2018, signifying a drop in value of around 64 million pounds 4.5 years on. The likes of Antoine Griezmann, Raphael Varane, and Ousmane Dembele's values have all tumbled since 2018. Meanwhile, Samuel Umtiti, Paul Pogba, and N'Golo Kante, to name just 3 players, were all highly valued in 2018, but aren't in this France squad. And let's not even get into Benjamin Mendy. There are fresh assets in the France squad though, thanks to their constant conveyor belt of talent, such as Real Madrid midfielder Aurélien Tchouaméni, whose valuation is second only to Mbappé's. Eduardo Camavinga and William Saliba both seem significantly undervalued to me at just 50 million euros each, and the same goes for Youssouf Fofana, who is supposedly worth only 25 million euros. France have 4 players valued at less than 10 million euros. Can you guess who they might be? Too slow. They are Areola, Lloris, Giroud and Mandanda, who have a combined age of 127. That is 5 years older than the oldest recorded person to have ever lived, namely Jean Colmont, who also happened to be French. Heck of an innings that, Jean. Good going. Second, Brazil. £990 million. There is a decent-sized gap between France in third and Brazil in second, despite the fact that Brazil have the oldest squad out of the favourites and the third oldest squad out of everyone at the 2022 World Cup. Despite not being the youngest and having the likes of Everton Ribeiro, Alex Sandro, Weatherton, Thiago Silva and Dani Alves, 5 players all aged over 30 and valued at less than 5 million euros, Brazil also have by far the most players out of any team valued at in excess of 50 million euros. In fact, over half of the Brazil squad, some 14 players, fall into that category, and you could argue that the likes of Ederson and Lucas Paqueta are unfortunate not to join them. Vinicius Jr. is quite rightly considered to be Brazil's most valuable player, valued at 120 million euros, a valuation which is bettered only by Kylian Mbappé and Erling Haaland in all of world football. Meanwhile, Antony, Rodrigo, Neymar and Gabriel Jesus are all valued at more than 75 million euros. Brazil's ranking is at one place from the World Cup in Russia 4.5 years ago, when their squad was valued at 952 million euros, which was enough to put them in third. And if it wasn't for quite so many golden oldies being included in their current squad, they would most likely have taken top spot. First, England, £1.09 billion. The only team to break the billion barrier in pounds, though England and Brazil both do in euros, as do France in dollars, England supposedly have the most valuable squad at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. England were estimated to have the 5th most valuable squad at the World Cup in Russia 4.5 years ago, but unfancied going into that tournament, I distinctly remember getting lots of comments from people accusing me of being hideously biased and stupid as an Englishman for suggesting that England might have some valuable footballers. So, just to reiterate this time around, none of this is my opinion, it is based solely on Transfermarkt's own data-driven valuations. If you hate England, which I get, and think that all of their players are worthless scum, which I don't, then take it up with them and not me. Unlike last time around though, when even I was a little bit surprised by the lofty valuations of some England players, this time it makes perfect sense. For a start, the England squad is young. There are 8 players under the age of 25, and even England's oldest players, namely Kyle Walker and Jordan Henderson, are still only 32. So there are far fewer players bringing that average down, unlike with France or Brazil. The least valuable player in this England squad, according to Transfermarkt for example, which I personally found quite surprising, is Kieran Trippier, who is valued at just 13 million euros, despite his fantastic start to the season at Newcastle United. Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham are the 4th and 6th most valuable players on the planet, estimated to be worth 110 and 100 million euros each, which still seems slightly low to me. Meanwhile, Harry Kane and Bukayo Saka both come in at 90 million euros, followed by Declan Rice at 80 million euros. Personally, I think you would struggle to get Rice out of West Ham for that price, unless he was in the final year of his deal, which is approaching, I believe, nor do I think that Liverpool would accept a fee of 70 million euros for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Nonetheless, the valuations make England's squad the most valuable at the 2022 World Cup, according to Transfermarkt, almost twice as valuable as Argentina's squad, 5 times as valuable as Poland's, and a whopping 20 times as valuable as Iran's. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it and would like to see the 7 least valuable squads, then do let me know in the comments, or I'll probably mainly just judge it on how many people actually watch this video, if I'm being entirely honest with you. But yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts, whatever they might be in the comments. Unless they are, how could you possibly think the England squad is worth that much? That wasn't me, all right? Okay? Oh, we got that. Okay. You can also subscribe and turn on notifications for HITC Sevens, and feel free to follow me on either Twitter or Instagram, or even both, via the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.